What's up, everyone? We are diving back into the multiverse today for another epic. Which is What If Naruto Got Ultimate Harem with Ino and Shizune Part 3. You enjoy this story? Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. They immediately rushed over to Shibuki, but it was far too late. When they arrived, the sight before them was too gruesome as Shibuki laid there dead, his corpse mutilated beyond recognition. The head was detached from the neck as well as the legs. It would seem that Naruto did not want Shibuki to run away. Monster! Hana cried out. How could you? Naruto slowly turned around, his eyes no longer their cold cerulean blues. It was now a deep red color. Monster! Naruto asked as he dangled his prize in the air. I'm a monster. A cold cynical laugh soon filled the air. What makes you better than me, Inuzuka Hana? Is it because you don't have the Kyuubi seal inside of you? Is it because you grew up like a normal child while I had nothing? You're not even human. Humans would never commit acts like what you just done. Hana sneered. Am I not flesh and bone like you? Do I not have a heart like everyone else? You were part of the generation that knew something about me. I was just an innocent newborn that happened to have been selected to become the jailer of the mighty Kyuubi by your late Yondaime. He wanted me to be raised as a hero, but instead, I was raised as a scapegoat. We should have killed you the day you learned to walk, demon. Hana spat out venomously. It was because of you that we suffered like this, plaguing our memories and disgracing the dead by living. I thought demons had respect, but just seeing you here makes me want to puke. Naruto made no attempt to deny her claim, but that didn't mean he had to stay here and listen to someone preach to him about his ways. Instead, Naruto glared at Hana, freezing her and Lee on the spot, and made a dash towards them, the near-invisible blade of wind now fully visible due to the blood of Shibuki and Shibi. Naruto raised his right arm slightly, intent on slicing the Konoha ninjas in half. As he prepared to lower his weapon, Mitsu, one of the Haimaru brothers, leapt in front of his master and started to growl fiercely. Naruto scoffed at the attempt and didn't stop. His body leapt in front of the dog and twisted in midair, the sword now coming down with full power. Hana watched helplessly as the sword came closer and closer. She closed her eyes and waited for the pain to come. I'm sorry guys, she mumbled under her breath as she waited. She felt a spray of warm liquid on her face and she slowly opened her eyes. Naruto stood there, his cruel red eyes was staring at the ground. Her eyes met his and they both stared at the ground. Mitsu! Hana screamed out. She broke free from Naruto's jutsu and was immediately down by her companion's side. Mitsu let out a small whimper as he struggled to get back on his feet. Don't. It'll be okay, she reassured the dog. Naruto walked forward, making his presence known. Lee appeared in front of him with his arms out. Don't you think you caused enough pain today, Naruto-kun? Naruto-kun, what is with you and Naruto-kun? That Naruto-kun died the day he was banished from Konoha. That Naruto-kun died the day when your Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi within him. There is no more Naruto-kun. Only Uzumaki Naruto. Lee lowered his head, saddened by the news. I see, then, I'm sorry my friend, I should have stayed by your side that day. Enough. Naruto coldly replied. I never had anyone supporting me when I was alone and I surely as hell do not need your pity now. Uzumaki Naruto never existed in your prideful eyes. Only the demon. You have to see it from our point of view. Before Lee could finish his explanation, Naruto disappeared from his sight and appeared in front of Hana. Monster. Demon. I swear I'll kill you. Hana screamed out, upset over her partner's death. Naruto stared at the girl before stabbing his sword down straight into her partner's heart, ending all hope of Mitsu's recovery. Ah! Hana released a high-pitched scream before leaping towards Naruto, her claws aimed for his face. She lost not one but two of her friends tonight, and that itself was unacceptable. She unconsciously flung her body forward towards Naruto, every intention of killing him. Hana watched as a grin slowly appeared on Naruto's face, as if he was expecting this. She saw his hand move slowly in front of her eyes, and then before she knew it, her body was screaming in pain as she fell towards the ground, a small tunnel of light appearing in her eyes. Hana. She heard her name being shouted frantically, but she couldn't locate the source. She vaguely recognized the voice. Lee. Her voice barely above a whisper. As she focused her eyes some more, she realized that Lee was standing in front of her, but something was wrong with this picture. Hana let out a small gasp as she saw that Lee's right arm was missing, blood dripping out from his missing limb. Lee, she asked again as she found some more energy to move her body. Why Naruto-kun, why? Naruto dispelled his sword as he put his package inside of his cloak. I made a promise, a long time ago. His hands slowly retracted inside as well as his eyes met Lee's. I swore that, if I ran into any Konoha ninjas, I would destroy them. A sudden force exerted from Naruto, blowing small particles away from the area. Lee chuckled sadly. Then it is my duty to stop you here tonight. Naruto shook his head. That was pretty foolish of you to jump in front of the girl. Now you're missing an arm. How are you going to defeat me now? By opening all 8 gates. Lee bluffed. Hana widened her eyes. She could feel her life slowly draining away, but she couldn't afford Lee to waste his right here. He had to go back and report. A gut feeling in her stomach told her that it wasn't his time to die here tonight. Lee, Hana tried to talk but ended up coughing. Run. Naruto tilted his head to the side, somewhat amazed to see Hana still alive. You're still alive. Run. Lee, Hana desperately yelled again. Hana. Lee turned his head back. I will not leave you here. Don't be a hero, she sharply yelled. You must retreat and tell Hokage-sama about the events here tonight. Yes, Lee. Tell your precious Hokage-sama. Let her know that I will be coming back to fulfill my second promise soon. Naruto ran forward and rammed his knee into Lee's stomach. As Lee staggered back, he saw a glimpse of Naruto's face. A sadistic look in his eyes. Now run back like the dog you are. He grabbed Lee by the collar of his vest and threw him into the river. And then, there was one. Hana took what seemed to be her last few breaths as she laid on the ground staring at her adversary. You may have won this small battle, demon, she grunted as the pain slowly spread around her body. But you will never crush the will of fire. Naruto crouched down and held out his palm in front of her face. Will of fire. You should know that you can't crush fire. He shook his head. You have to smother the fire in order to keep it from growing. Blue chakra started to gather on the surface of his palm until it formed a perfect spherical ball. This is the Rasengan, Hana-san. The technique left by your Yondaime. Hana's eyes widened. It was truly a beautiful technique, but she recognized the power behind it and the chakra control that it took to maintain it. She looked at Naruto, and it was then that she understood the true meaning of fear. Say hello to Shibi-san for me. Without any hesitation, Naruto plunged the Rasengan into Hana's chest, ending her life instantly. There were no more screams that night, but later that morning, the village was in shock. 2 ninjas were found dead and their leader, Shibuki, was found mutilated with his fist tightly gripping the area of his chest. It was as if he was guarding something valuable. This caused a massive panic among the village. The villagers, fearing for their own lives, stayed away, protecting themselves now that there is a killer loose in their village. 7 p.m. Konoha, front gate. Lee managed to walk through the gates before collapsing on the ground. The people who found him saw the fearful and frightening look on his face. They immediately brought him to the hospital, and news spread like wildfire all across the city. 10 a.m. Konoha, hospital. When Tsunade heard that Lee came back in critical condition, her sake saucer dropped on the table and shattered. She wasted no time making her way to the hospital, barking orders to Shizune to call everyone to Lee's room. A long 10 minutes later, almost everyone gathered inside Lee's room, each of them shocked at the condition that Lee was in. He had several broken ribs and his left arm fractured, but that was soon forgotten when Tsunade revealed that his right arm was gone. It took the combined force of Asuma and Kakashi to restrain Guy as he made an attempt to get revenge on the person who did this. Tsunade gritted her teeth in annoyance and soon slammed her fist against the wall, causing it to slightly crack. Enough, she shouted, her voice laced with annoyance and authority. I know all of you have questions, so let me tell you about his mission before you start asking me one by one. She saw them all nodding their head in agreement before she continued. The team, consisting of Rock Lee, Inuzuka Hana, and Aburame Shibi, was on a mission to act as bodyguards for Shibuki as he prepared his trip to Konoha. What he was coming here for was because he saw a vision in his dreams that someone was going to steal the heart of the waterfall. Heart of the waterfall? Shikamaru asked. His mind began to put together pieces of the information, but there was a bigger puzzle that he couldn't solve. Who could have done this to Lee and his team? Tsunade released a small growl from her throat, signaling Shikamaru to shut up. The heart of the waterfall is a unique item that has been passed down for centuries. The stone has the power grant the user the power of 3 cages combined, but at a high cost. When the user uses the stone will take the user's life as payment for its services. Sasuke's eyes slightly widened at the story, but something didn't seem right. Why would Shibuki have it? Because Shibuki was the one who inherited it from his father. It was his family that has been guarding the stone, but now, the stone has fallen into wrong hands. What about my sister? Kiba yelled out. He couldn't wait anymore. He had to know. Before Tsunade could answer, a small ing sound came from Lee as he was in some sort of nightmare. He began to twist and shake before kicking his legs. Hana! Lee shouted as he sat up, sweat falling down his face. He took deep breaths as his eyes looked around the room. Kiba immediately pulled Lee by his collars. Where the hell is my sister? He demanded forcefully. Lee lowered his head and looked away. Kiba's eyes widened and shook even more. "WHO did it!" he shouted. "Kiba!" Tsunade shouted and pulled the young Inuzuka away from Lee. "Here, Lee." Tenten offered a cup of water and Lee sat there emotionless, his eyes somewhat hollow. "Lee." She tried calling out his name once more. Neji walked over from his corner and nudged Tenten to move. He lowered himself just to stare into Lee's eyes before punching him in the face. Lee instantly rebounded and jumped up, his eyes now glaring at Neji. "That was uncalled for, my rival." Lee rubbed his face. Lee, if you're feeling better now, maybe you could tell us what happened." Tenten spoke up as she tried to get Lee to sit down. Lee sighed as he touched his right shoulder, the place where his right arm used to be. "He did this, he toyed with us." Everyone waited as the boy continued his story. "He came into the village while we were with Shibuki-san. He knew about the stone and didn't care about what method he used to get it." Tears started to form in Lee's face. "He killed them all. He mocked each one of us, giving us the impression that we had the upper hand before showing us how weak we were compared to him. Shibi-san was the first one to go. His entire colony of Kikai bugs were no match for him. In the end, he just destroyed them all." Sounds of a fist connecting with the wall stopped Lee from his story. Shino slowly pulled it out and bowed. Sorry. He couldn't believe it. His father was one of the strongest people in the village and it pained him to hear that he was taken down like this. "Are you sure, Lee?" Tsunade asked. Lee nodded his head. "I saw it with my own eyes. Shibi-san had all his bugs surrounding him, but it had no effect and that cost him his life." He then looked at Kiba with apologetic eyes. Hana-san and her companion, Mitsu-san, were next to go. "I tried to protect her, but he was too strong. I'm sorry, Kiba-san." Lee bowed his head as tears continued to leak out. "I failed everyone. I failed you. I failed Shibi-san, Hana-san, Shibuki-san. It's not your fault, Lee. We'll get whoever did this." Tsunade tried to comfort the Junin. The anger in her voice gave her away. Everyone could tell that she was angry by the way she was gripping the edge of the bed. "I know who did this." Lee's distant voice spoke up. "It's someone who we're very familiar with." "No." Tsunade held her hand to her mouth. "Are you sure?" she asked. Lee nodded his head. It was Uzumaki Naruto. Everyone in the room was speechless. Kiba yelled out in a fit of anger and left the room. "I'll go after him, Hokage-sama." Hinata bowed and ran out of the room. The way Naruto killed us off. It was like we were just pawns in his eyes. Lee shivered as he recounted the details of the battle. The way he moved, the strength he demonstrated, the red eyes. "But that's not all. He purposely let me go with a message." "Message? What else could that monster want?" Neji growled out. "He's caused enough pain towards this village. He said he would be coming back to fulfill his second promise." Feeling the fatigue hit him at once, his body slowly dropped to the bed. Lee's words hit everyone hard. The chilling message that was given. It left everyone feeling somewhat scared. There was something more there, and what did that second promise mean? Tsunade groaned as she massaged her temples. Instead of enjoying her afternoon drinking sake, she now had to deal with the Rookie 7, one missing Ino Yamanaka and the council. Oh, the joy of being Hokage. Okay. Everyone scram and let Lee get his rest. The meeting will resume in 1 hour in my office. Dismiss. One by one, everyone left the room. Tsunade stared out the window as a cloud covered the sun, creating a cloudy and depressing atmosphere. You're leaving me with no other choice, Naruto. Near Suna, Naruto dangled the necklace in front of his eyes, staring at it slightly. All that for just this. He held the necklace towards his eyes and twirled it around, wondering what was so special about it. No matter. I accomplished my goals. The only thing left for me to do is to settle the debts that I have left under the name of Uzumaki Naruto. In a fierce gust of wind, Naruto disappeared in a whirl of sand. Location: Nami no Kuni. Date: 2 days later. Ino self-consciously looked over her outfit for the 1000th time as she took a step into this village. Wearing a matching black tank top with a skirt, her Hitai-8 was firmly strapped to her arm, showing her allegiance to the village. She looked around her settings for a few minutes before her eyes rested themselves on a remarkable bridge. Over 3 miles long, it had a royal aura surrounding it. She approached a sign that stood at the foot of the bridge. We, the people of Nami no Kuni, dedicate this bridge to Uzumaki Naruto for his duty and service to this country. It is in his honor that we. Her eyes widened as she continued the rest of that sentence. Name this bridge after our hero. It is with our greatest pleasure that from this day forward, this bridge will be called the Great Naruto Bridge. No freaking way. She tried to hide her surprise, but seriously, to have a bridge name after a person you know is shocking. Well, I guess this is the place to start looking since he directed me here. Flashback. It was that same day that she had that talk with the young Sarutobi that she decided to do some digging on one Naruto Uzumaki. What was so special about this guy? Her curiosity wasn't going to let her rest until she found her answers. After sitting in the same stool for an hour, enough was enough. She let out a cry of frustration before throwing an order of flowers into the garbage can. The topic of Naruto was pestering in her mind and she couldn't get any work done. As Ino recalled, Naruto's old sensei was Kakashi, so her target was currently the infamous copy ninja. On her journey over Konoha, her first stop was the bookstore. The pervert was probably there reading the latest Ika Ika Paradise series. While walking over there, she passed by the hot springs and noticed an elder man with white hair crouching down and peeping into a small hole. Her blood boiled as the word pervert rushed into her mind. She made a fist and stomp over there, intending to put an end to the pervert's life. As she went closer, she heard sounds of giggling and scribbling. She furiously shook her head, determined to cripple this man for life. As a fellow woman herself, she hated perverts with a passion. Hey you! Ino grabbed the man by his shoulders and spun him around, an angry glare in her eyes. What do you think you're doing? The man gulped nervously and rubbed the back of his head. I'm lost. Ino cracked her knuckles, letting the man take another attempt of his excuse before she beat him. I am Jiraiya, the man boasted, the famous Sannin of Konoha. Ino stopped her advances as she heard his introduction. She quickly sized up the man once more and scoffed at his pathetic attempt. Really now, the Jiraiya of the Sannin that I know isn't a pervert. The man smirked. Of course not. I am a super pervert. Ino sighed. This man was either incredibly stupid or incredibly sure of his skills as a ninja. I don't suppose you know where Hitaki Kakashi is, would you? If this man was a pervert, he would know others. She was sure perverts had their own networks and means of communication. Sure do. Jiraiya answered. He pointed upwards towards a tree and continued his peeping adventure. Ino followed the direction of the finger and looked closely at the tree. Kakashi. She yelled out. Ma Ino-chan, you don't have to shout. Kakashi replied as he jumped off the tree. Perverts. All guys are perverts, she muttered under her breath. She watched Kakashi walk up to her holding an orange book in his hands. She rolled her eyes as she noticed that he didn't even bother to hide the book. I need some information. Don't we all? Jiraiya laughed. I want to know some information about your former student. I don't know where Sasuke is, Ino-chan. Kakashi answered without looking up from the book. He should be in Konoha somewhere. Not him. Your other former student. Sakura. She's working in the hospital. Ino gritted her teeth, holding back from lashing out against this man. I mean your last student. Uzumaki Naruto. Ah, Naruto. Kakashi looked up with a sad look. He's not here. Did you not remember what happened? Again, Ino fought back from assaulting the Junin. Was everyone idiots today? I know that Kakashi, she said in a dangerous tone. I recall that you took them on their first C-rank mission outside Konoha. Where did you take them? Nami no Kuni. Jiraiya spoke up. If you hurry, you might still catch him there. Ino and Kakashi looked at Jiraiya with surprised looks. Jiraiya dismissed the look and stood up. Unlike some people, I actually liked my pupils. I keep in contact with my student on a regular basis. He disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving the two ninjas shocked. Flashback end. When Ino finished crossing the bridge, she looked around the town. It was nothing like Konoha. Business was blooming as people were busily making their way around, carrying bundles of goods. Children of all ages were out in the streets, enjoying their afternoon. If I were Naruto, where would I go? Ino asked herself as she looked around. Maybe I should ask around. Excuse me, miss. Ino politely asked an elderly woman, but the woman only smiled before moving on. Hey, excuse me, sir. Ino tried once more. The man stopped and looked at Ino, a curious gaze on his face. Yes, he asked in a masculine tone. Anyo. Ino felt herself stutter at the sight before her. The man had untamed black hair with a chisel face. His striking brown eyes were as sharp as diamonds, and it was like if he was staring straight into her soul. She quickly looked at the rest of him and could swear that this man was built like a god. Can I help you? He asked once more. Yes. Ino heard herself speak up. She quickly regained control before making a fool out of herself. I'm looking for a certain person. A smirk appeared on his face as he tilted his head slightly. And why are you looking for this person? My reasons are only my own. She answered more rudely than she intended to. It would be nice if you gave me a name. I can't help you if you don't supply me with any information. He answered, looking somewhat amused. Naruto, you might want to check in with the mayor of this village. Tazuna and his family are probably the only ones who knew Uzumaki Naruto the best. The man smiled one last time before disappearing among the sea of people, leaving Ino confused. I never told him Naruto's last name. Deep within Konoha. Report. A loud voice boomed through the chamber. There is a council meeting later today to discuss the recent events, Shinrei-sama. I expect you to follow the plans soon, Sasuke. Sasuke nodded his head. What about Danzo? The figure shook his head. His route is now under your control, Sasuke. Use them wisely. Sasuke only smiled. I'll try not to kill them. I want Uzumaki Naruto dead. You do this mission, Sasuke, and I'll guarantee you limitless power. Power beyond your wildest dreams. Even a cage will fear your name. Shinrei answered darkly. He could tell what Sasuke was thinking by looking into Sasuke's eyes. The boy was mad about power, doing anything to receive it. If that was the case, then so be it. Uzumaki Naruto is a wildcard that I will not afford to take any chances with. I want him and all witnesses dead. Do you understand me? Sasuke nodded his head. Crystal. Then get out of my sight. Nami no Kuni. When Ino first arrived at her designation, she was expecting a hut, a small house at the very most, but the building in front of her did not even come close. In front of her stood a medium-sized house that was almost 2 stories tall, built and finished completely in bricks. Shaking off her surprise, she adamantly walked up to the front steps before knocking on the sturdy door. I hope I didn't get the wrong house. She muttered. Is anyone home? She raised her voice. Keep her shirt on. I'm coming. A grouchy voice yelled back. Behind the door, Ino could hear the sounds of heavy footsteps coming closer. As she held her breath, she imagined what this Tazuna would look like. Her imagination led her to believe he was some sort of elderly gentleman type. She let out a small giggle as she sighed. The world needs more of their type instead of the self-centered, egoistic man around. The door swung open as an elderly man stood there in normal clothes, his expression somewhat angry. What do you want? Speak up, girlie. The man rudely answered. Ino's eyebrow twitched slightly. She looked him over and assumed he was someone's grandfather. I'm looking for the mayor of this village, Tazuna-san. I was told that he lived here. Ino politely asked. The man released a belch before nodding his head. You found him, girlie. What can I do for you? Ino stepped back, a disgusted look written across her face. You're Tazuna. Her voice slipped and it came out as a shock. Not that she minded. The man in front of her was dressed as a slob, destroying his public image. You got a problem with me? No, but you're dressed like a slob, a bum. For someone as important as you, how can you dress like this? Aha, I told you Otou-san. Even this young lady agrees with me. Tazuna grumbled and folded his arms against his chest. I'm the goddamn mayor of this village, Tsunami. I will wear whatever I goddamn want. Then you can cook for yourself tonight. Tsunami threatened. She glared at the elder man. I'm sure Inari would be glad to see some of those delicious dishes that his grandfather always bragged about. You go, girl. Ino silently rooted for this woman. She was using the man's own egoistic bragging to keep him in place. Score 1 for womankind. Tazuna finally gave in and retreated upstairs. Tsunami had a victory smirk on her face as she turned her attention back to Ino. I'm sorry that you had to see that, miss. Yamanaka. Ino Yamanaka. I think the position of mayor finally got to his head. Tsunami explained. It's not all bad. He does a lot for this village and loves it like his own. Ino laughed. Sounds like a great cage in the making. The two women shared a laugh at the elder man's expense and they continued to laugh when they heard his string of curses from the second floor. Oh dear me. I seem to have forgotten my manners. Come in, Ino-san. Ino wanted to decline the woman's invitation, seeing as how she only needed to ask Tazuna some questions and be on her way, but the older woman was rather stubborn when it came to inviting people inside. I'm sure whatever business you have with Otou-san will be a long one. Most of his business meetings take a while. Ino found herself now inside the house of the mayor. Compared to the outside, the inside was more luxurious. It had everything that a single person could have and more. Ino could tell that Tsunami was probably the type who ran a no-nonsense home, keeping the people who live here in line as well as managing the household. She couldn't find a speck of dust or mothball anywhere. It somewhat reminded her of her mother. I'll be back with some tea and my father shortly, Ino-san. Just make yourself comfortable. And with that, the woman disappeared into the kitchen. Ino could hear the happy humming that Tsunami was singing and she had a small smile on his face. Maybe I will stay for a bit. By the time Tsunami came back with tea, an unhappy Tazuna was also present and apparently, he was dragged downstairs by his shirt. Ino muffled a giggle as she saw Tsunami dragging the man into the den. Well, I'm here. What do you want, girlie? Make it quick. Or cutting into my sake time. Tazuna said as his eyes wandered to his sake bottles that stood behind Ino. I was told that you could help me find a certain person, Tazuna-san. Ino bluntly said. She was never the type of person who wishy-washy. Not by a long shot. She was the apprentice of Ibiki Morino, the sadist of Konoha. He is well known because of his torture and interrogation skills. All his knowledge about torture and interrogation was passed down to Ino, and because of her bloodline, it made her job even easier. It was a mistake to say that she liked her job. Saying that she liked her job was like saying Kakashi only liked his books. Ino loved her job. Her abilities to control a person's mental state gave her unbelievable control and she loved it. Throw in her mentor's skills, she was a deadly beauty both on and off the battlefield. Tell me who you seek already, girlie. You're wasting my time. Tazuna asked again. He haven't had his sake in over 2 hours and it killed him deeply. The fine alcohol from Iwa. It was truly a gift from the gods. He picked up his cup of tea and took a small sip. He released a sigh as the liquid passed through his throat. Sake and tea, both so similar in liquid properties but very different in taste. I'm looking for Uzumaki Naruto. Tsunade briskly walked into the council meeting room. The chatter momentarily stopped when her presence was felt as she entered. Tsunade smiled to herself, enjoying the effect that she had on these people. It wasn't every day that a room full of council members would be silenced by the entrance of a Hokage. She took her seat at the head of the table and cleared her throat, signaling the start of a meeting she predicted would go on for hours. Greetings. We only have one agenda here today, so let's get to it. The council members briefly nodded their head, indicating that they were ready to begin. It has come to my attention that Uzumaki Naruto can no longer be left alone. What are your thoughts on this issue? Send our most elite team of ninjas and kill him. A council member by the name of Takaumi Kenji voiced out. Several others nodded their head in agreement. It is foolish to diminish our forces like that. We have to think clearly. What do you suggest? Shikaku. The Nara clan head sighed. Bah, I'm getting too old for this, he continued to ramble on, but Tsunade silenced him with an angry glare. I suggest going under a united front. If we can somehow lure Uzumaki near our borders, we can set up some sort of trap that will render him helpless. Papisterius. Nikatsu Kaien shouted out. We must swiftly kill the demon. Who knows what happens if we take time to plan this out? The longer it takes, the stronger he gets. We can't risk having another demon run amok on us. Kaien-san, mind your mouth. You are within the presence of your Hokage. Tsunade threatened, her glare piercing through the man. If you dare use that word again, I cannot guarantee your safety within this office. Kaien wisely closed his mouth and nodded. Hokage-sama, I agree with Nara-san with creating a plan, but Kaien-san is also correct about acting swiftly. Uzumaki is not growing weaker by each day. He's getting stronger, and this recent event has shown us that he is indeed active and now plotting something big. We need to find out where he is and bait him before it is too late. Hiyashi spoke up. Uzumaki was last seen in Taigakure, but before that incident, we have no other information. It is imperative that we know everything about him. His traits, his habits, his likes and dislikes. That way, we can think before he can and be there when he will. What can we do about this? Tsunade asked. She had no information about Naruto and there was no way to get in contact with him. Not like he would seek out her help. He obviously made it clear when he killed 2 of her ninjas without a second thought. We find Jiraiya, Homura said, receiving a surprised look from Tsunade. You know where he is. Make him tell us. Tsunade laughed. Even I can't make Jiraiya tell me where Naruto is. How do you think he'll react when we force him? Then we blackmail him. Plain and simple. An unexpected voice spoke up. All the members of the council turned their heads while Tsunade had a surprised look on her face as she stared at the person who made the comment. Uchiha, Sasuke. Akatsuki base. Itachi slowly walked into an all too familiar looking base. The same meeting room, the same statue, it was getting tacky. Even for him. This was one of the many bases that Akatsuki holds under their control. Throughout the regions of the map, as far as man can see, the organization has at least 2 in each area. He lost count after the 23rd base and gave up caring. There was one base that he was particularly fond of, but they only had one meeting in it. Itachi was so into his thoughts that he mindlessly walked into the central room, not noticing that Pain stood there, his arms folded and was waiting for his report. What happened, Itachi? His voice was filled with authority and demanded absolute attention. It immediately knocked Itachi back into reality, and it was then he realized that he was standing in front of the leader. Itachi quickly kneeled in front of Pain. The boy demonstrated well above Junin abilities. He has successfully retrieved the required item, but he disappeared in Suna. Even my eyes couldn't follow the boy. Pain soaked in the information and nodded. Did he use it? If you mean about the Kyuubi, then no. His chakra reserve seemed to have doubled from the last time we encountered him. If you also mean the stone, the answer is still no. It would seem that Uzumaki Naruto is a level above the rest. What would you evaluate him as? Pain asked, curious to a certain extent. His eyes stared at the elder Uchiha, watching him for any sudden movements and hidden intentions. Itachi looked up, his own eyes meeting the eyes of the leader. If I was to compare him to Kisame, Itachi thought for a minute. I would say his skills are somewhat above his, but his judgment is still lacking. I see. Why did you ask me to follow him, Pain-sama? Itachi asked. At first, it seemed like a waste of time to tail someone of Naruto's caliber, but Pain never did something unless he had a plan behind it. He noticed that lately, the leader was acting slightly odd, but he paid no attention. You wouldn't want anything to happen to your new partner, would you? Itachi stuttered. New partner. He narrowed his eyes. I don't need a partner. I'm capable of doing my missions alone. Pain shifted his weight and then disappeared from view, leaving Itachi shocked. He held a kunai straight to Itachi's throat. You dare question me, Uchiha? Your eyes are inferior to mine. I can see things that you keep hidden. I can see your darkest fears. Itachi did not expect the leader to take such a harsh course of action, thus leaving the elder Uchiha unprepared. He felt the cold tip against his own throat and he narrowed his eyes. He has been waiting for this chance to test his skills against the leader but decided against it. No, it is not time yet. There was someone else he must beat before he faced the leader. It was only a matter of time. Do you understand, Itachi-kun? You were born to follow orders. So follow them without question. Pain said, removing the kunai slowly. Hi, Itachi slowly said. Where is Uzumaki now? Itachi froze, unsure if he should repeat it again or make up some lie. It was a disgrace to himself and his pride that his eyes couldn't track his movements. The mighty Sharingan, the famous copy Dujutsu, failed to track the chakra movements. It was just unheard of. He went missing in Suna. The mention of Suna caused Pain to slightly chuckle. An eerie chuckle, but it was a laughter that scared Itachi. I see. You're dismissed, Itachi. We will now wait for Uzumaki to come back to us. When Ino said the name Uzumaki Naruto, the reaction she was expecting from Tazuna was supposed to be a joyful one, where his face would swell up with tears and talk about Naruto like a grandson. Instead of her fantasy, Tazuna went into shock and dropped his cup of tea, causing it to shatter and allowing the steaming liquid to scatter everywhere. When the tea hit her skin, Ino let out a small yelp and jumped up, trying to wipe the hot liquid off her skin. Hey old man, what's your problem? Ino glared. Tazuna's arm couldn't stop shaking as he sat there, a fearful look written across his face. Why are you searching for that man? Tsunami sported a sad expression as she cleaned up the mess. Ino-san, you should turn back and go back home. Uzumaki Naruto isn't someone who you want to be involved with. It's just too dangerous for you. Ino snorted. I can't turn back now. I need to know something about Naruto. There's something about him that compels me to continue searching for him. Tazuna finally stopped shaking and looked down. While it is true that he was last seen in this village, but it was only for a final goodbye. Final goodbye? What do you mean? I'm afraid he's leaving behind his humanity. Leaving behind his humanity. Ino slowly repeated the words in her head. How does one leave behind one's humanity? It was just impossible. One of the first things she learned under Ibiki was that humans are always with emotions, no matter how well they present themselves. Anger, fear, sadness, happiness, surprise and disgust. There were more, but the rest were derived from these 6 basic ones. Why does he need to leave behind his humanity? Ino slowly asked. Tazuna shook his head. He told us about what Konoha did to him and I shouldn't even be telling you this. He glared at Ino, now showing his true self. But I see something in you, girl. I don't know what it is, but I think you'll be able to reach him before he swallows himself in darkness. Me, she squeaked. No, the other pretty blonde-haired girl over there in that corner. Tazuna sarcastically answered. Of course you. Ino leaned forward and growled. Stop speaking in riddles, old man. Tell me what you know and I'll decide for myself if I want to save him or not. Tsunami stood there, watching the tension between her father and this girl grow. It was just unhealthy having anger control one's life. Cut it out, you two. I will not have any fighting in this household. She sternly spoke up. The two backed away slowly, leaning back into their respectful seats. Where is Naruto now? Tazuna shrugged. The boy's a hero in this town. Everyone recognizes him for what he's done for this village and how he defeated Geto and his henchmen. Wait, he defeated them. Wasn't it Uchiha Sasuke? The mention of Sasuke's name caused Tazuna to laugh out loud. He clutched his stomach and banged the top of the table loudly. That boy, don't be joking, girly. He was unconscious when he fought Haku. Naruto was the one who saved them. Ino narrowed his eyes. Are you sure it wasn't the other way around? Do you take me for some kind of fool? That earned him glares from Ino and his own daughter. They both nodded and he sighed. If Sasuke was the one who saved Naruto, why the hell did we not name the bridge after him? Use your common sense for once. Ino scowled, but it wasn't at Tazuna. It was at her former best friend Sakura. That forehead girl lied to her. After all these years, she kept the truth from ever reaching the surface. Damn you, Sakura, she cursed from under her breath. Flashback. Hey Ino pig, guess what we came back from? A young Sakura asked as she went up to Ino's face, a huge smile slapped across the girl's face. Another boring mission, a young Ino replied. Anyway, where is my Sasuke-kun? She asked. My Sasuke-kun and I came back from a rank A mission. Sakura yelled out cheerfully. Get real, forehead. There's no way you could handle a rank A mission. Not only did we handle it, Sasuke-kun unlocked his Sharingan and defeated a very tough hunter nin. Sakura bragged. Ino's eyes widened at the news. Sakura, tell me what happened. She dragged Sakura into a nearby restaurant and the two continued to gossip until nightfall. Flashback end. I'm such a fool. Ino belittled herself. She proceeded to bang her head against the table. Fool. No good fool. Her actions somewhat alerted Tazuna, somewhat scared if this girl lost her mind. No normal person would do that deliberately to themselves. It was just weird. On the other hand, Tsunami perfectly understood what the girl went through and could share her pains. She put a hand on Ino's shoulder. It's okay, Ino-san. The deeds of the past stays in the past. It is the future that we should worry about. Ino lifted her head up from the table and sighed. I'm a fool. No doubt. Tazuna snorted. Care to repeat that, Uchiha? Tsunade retorted. You're speaking about a fellow Sannin here. Do you forget that I am a Sannin as well? Such mockery will not be tolerated. Sasuke rolled his eyes. You're overlooking one of the basic rules of a ninja Hokage-sama. If we can't trust someone to be honest with us, how can we trust them at all? I believe Sasuke-san is correct, Tsunade. Koharu said. The elder looked around for support and smiled when the others agreed with her. Either way, I don't control Jiraiya. He, like myself, is a Sannin. He differs from normal ninjas. He isn't bounded by our law. He follows his own code, coming and leaving as he pleases. That's where you're wrong, Hokage-sama. Sasuke spoke up again. He folded his hands and brought them up to his face. We're going to hit Jiraiya where it hurts. You're going to shut down the hot springs. We're going to declare him a missing nin. What? Tsunade yelled out. You're talking treason. I should kill you for even thinking about that. She slammed her hands on the table and glared at Sasuke. That is an absurd idea. No way in hell am I allowing you to label Jiraiya as a missing nin. Then maybe we're already in hell. Sasuke replied, a small smile hidden under his hands. Maybe this is the hell that you're speaking about. Mutters from the other council members started to arise, each one discussing among themselves. If we label Jiraiya as a missing nin, he's bound to meet up with Naruto. We will then place the both of them under heavy surveillance and then strike. Sasuke explained. We all know how Jiraiya favors Naruto. We will send ninjas after the Toad Sannin, and when Naruto hears that his teacher is in danger, he will miraculously show up to save the day. We will have Shino place a small bug on Naruto, and from there, we will plan carefully and wipe them both out. Watch what you say, Uchiha. That's my teammate you're talking about. Sasuke shook his head. A ninja that isn't loyal to us is just as good as an enemy ninja. We don't need Jiraiya on our side. We don't even know where his loyalties lie. Tsunade gripped her knuckles. Her anger was just about to reach maximum boiling point, and if she snapped, God helped her, because she was going to knock that arrogant smirk off the Uchiha's face. I will not allow it, Uchiha. Not as long as I'm Hokage. Sasuke shrugged. Fine. Why don't we settle this with a vote then? All or nothing, Hokage-sama. If I win, we do it my way and you will not interfere. If I lose, I will resign from my spot on the council and spend the rest of my days in jail for speaking treasonous terms. You got yourself a bet, Uchiha. Tsunade snorted. All in favor stand now. The council, divided by it already, is slowly stood. There were 36 people that served on the council, not including the Hokage herself. She was above the power, but it seems that her power was slowly slipping away. One by one, they slowly stood, next to Sasuke. 2, 10, 15, 17 people stood up with a somber look on their face. The other half remained in their seats, looking confidently at their Hokage. Looks like a Thai brat. Tsunade confidently said. Sasuke shook his head. That's where you're mistaken, Hokage-sama. The head of the Yamanaka clan, Ino Yamanaka, isn't present for this meeting, so there is a total of 35 people here. The last one to vote is the head of the Inuzuka clan herself. Sum-san. To say Tsunade was shocked was the understatement of the year. She was swindled and conned. That's the only possible explanation for this. She was cheated and she paid the price for her brashness. Everything went down to Inuzuka Sum, the mother of the daughter Inuzuka Hana, the one that Naruto killed. Sume closed her eyes and slowly stood up. I want revenge on him. He will pay for killing my daughter. Sasuke looked at a defeated Tsunade with a huge smile on his face. This is my win, Hokage-sama, and starting today, we will begin the operation to eliminate Uzumaki Naruto once and for all. Cheers erupted from the members on the council as they celebrated. They were finally getting rid of their problems once and for all. Good day, Hokage-sama. Sasuke sneered as he walked out of the room. Tsunade growled and slammed her fist into the wall, causing it to crack and split apart. She turned around and glared at the remaining members. Get the hell out of my sight. The room quickly vacated and she was left alone, her head dropping to the table. Bloody hell, she whispered as she closed her eyes to ponder her next move. Nami no Kuni. In this slowly prospering town, the times are surely changing. It seemed like it was just yesterday that he stepped foot into this poor village, but in reality, it was almost 8 long years ago. The town has surely changed since then. The lone figure slowly entered the lively bar, filled with chatter, and the smell of liquor lingered in the air. Men drinking the night away, without a single care in the world. A bottle of your finest sake. His voice came out like a whisper, as if he wasn't really there. Coming right up, sir. The barmaid said. She looked over his features, hidden inside a brown cloak, but still, the man's distinct features could not be masked away. She saw his golden blonde locks and his handsome face, blushing as she stared into his cerulean orbs. The man leaned against the bar, his eyes lingering among the people in the bar. He noticed a man in the front, loud voice and horsing around with this buddies. That red-hair barmaid timidly walked up to the man and his response was swatting away her tray. You dare ask me to pay for your lousy food and drink? Do you know who I am? The man yelled out. His gang followed their leader's example, causing a ruckus in the bar. They laughed and dragged the barmaid into their table against her own will. Here's your bottle, sir. The barmaid returned holding a bottle of Iwa sake. This was the best bottle in the house and he didn't care for the price. What did you say, woman? The leader yelled out, enraged by her comment. You don't know who I am. I'll tell you who I am. He grabbed her wrist forcefully. I am Uzumaki Naruto, the only ninja to be ranked SS in this entire world. He bragged. Upon hearing the man declare his name, the bar fell into silence, the patrons staring at the loud man. That's right. You all better shut up when you hear my name. The man who ordered the bottle of Iwa's finest sake snickered. A small smile graced his handsome face as his eyes fell on at the so-called ninja. The leader turned his head at the laughter. Do you want to die, you punk? The barmaid that was standing behind the counter urgently tugged on the man's cloak. Please, sir. Just apologize and he'll leave you alone. The man shrugged off her touch and stood up. Is he a regular here? The woman only nodded, a fearful look written in her eyes. I see. The man that only had a cloak wrapped around him pushed himself away from the counter and walked forward into their little circle. The leader smirked. Even if you beg for forgiveness, I won't go easy on ya. His boys joined in the laughter and gathered around, showing everyone what happens when a person messes with them. So you're Uzumaki Naruto, huh? That's right, punk. Maybe if you kneel and ed my shoes, I might consider forgiving you. He flashed a smile, his yellow teeth showing and the smell of liquor lingering in his breath. You can't be Uzumaki Naruto. The leader was taken by surprise and took one step back, not used to anyone talking back to him. Do you not see my blonde hair and piercing blue eyes? Does my muscles and strength not prove it? When he did not receive any sort of verbal response from the man, it irritated. I'll show you why I am ranked SS. He moved without warning, pretty quick for a big man, and struck hard. His gang watched on, amazement written across their face. That's his famous rock punch. He demolished 3 Konoha hunter nins with it. The quiet man only held his palm out and smiled when the punch connected. The leader had a surprised look on his face when he saw that his attack had no effect on the mysterious man. What the hell? He pulled his fist back and stared in awe. I already said that you can't be Uzumaki Naruto because, the man slowly retracted his hand and removed his hood, allowing the audience to see his features. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. The big man, the leader of the gang, was known as Takamura Ichiro. A man who resorted to small-time burglaries and murdering. Don't be why just because you stopped my punch. I'll kill you. Ichiro sneered. He waved his hand, telling his boys to jump in. Watch carefully Takamura Ichiro and learn why they fear me. Naruto said as he disappeared from the spot. In the second that Ichiro blinked his eyes, the man disappeared in front of him. His movements invisible to the eye. His eyes soon heard the flapping of a cloak standing behind him. He quickly turned around and pulled out a hidden kodachi. You're just fast punk but you have no power whatsoever. Naruto shook his head. Insolent insects. You don't even deserve to speak my name. He snapped his fingers and the wind blew into tavern, causing the men and everyone else in it to shiver. In a move that surpassed everyone's expectations, the men of Takamura Ichiro's gang fell one by one, their heads rolling off their bodies. Ichiro himself watched in horror as he too fell dead on the floor. The gang of 6 people were dead in less than a second. Naruto walked over and picked up his sake bottle but not before dropping 300 ryo on the countertop. He walked out silently and disappeared into the wind, eluding the onlookers who ran out to search for their hero. Was that really him, Yumi? The red-haired girl asked. The other girl, the one who served Naruto, only stood there nodding. We are forever in his debt. On an isolated hill, the entrance of a mysterious figure, his brown cloak quietly flapping with the wind instead of against it. He held a bottle tightly against his hand as he walked slowly towards the top of the hill. From far, there wasn't really anything besides 2 tombstones. These weren't your average tombstones. No, it wasn't made out of stones. Instead, it was marked by several wooden crosses, the only dictation that there were bodies buried here in the first place. There was also a sword stuck deep into the earth, a rusty metallic blade, but nevertheless, it was a weapon of a famous demon. Yes. To outsiders, this place is nothing more but an eerie place, but to the people who know what that blade symbolizes, this was the final resting ground of Haku and Momochi Zabuza. Naruto slowly walked to the top, his sake bottle swaying back and forth. How you guys feeling? Dead? He chuckled. It's been a long time, guys. He sat down on the floor, and smiled. Zabuza-san. Haku-san. Cheers. Naruto poured himself a drink, feeling the bitter taste as it went down his throat. He ate his lips after he finished and closed his eyes. The times are changing. One can no longer live in this world without having a reason. It is that reason that defines who we are, and if we no longer have that reason, we cease to exist. The government is as corrupt as the people who run it. Power is defined by what a person is capable of. With each passing day, more and more suffer. The way people live their lives, shrouded in half-truths and lies. Naruto poured himself another drink. The times that you once remember is no more, Zabuza-san. The cages themselves are becoming corrupt and the people once again suffer because of it. He stood up and stood in front of the wooden crosses. No one should pass into the afterlife without first tasting sake. This is my tribute to you guys. Naruto then tilted the bottle sideways, allowing the sake to be poured all over the wooden crosses. He bowed his head once in respect before disappearing again. Ino rolled her eyes for the very last time. She couldn't take much more of this nonsense. She felt her teeth grinding on each other, indicating her annoyance. Slurp. There was that sound again. Slurp. The old man was doing it on purpose to spite her. Just because she disagreed with his view on Naruto. He retaliated by slowly sipping his sake. Argg. Ino yelled. She pushed her seat away and stood up, fire gleaming in her eyes. You win, old man. I'll reserve my judgment for Naruto until I know him better. Slurp. That's all I ask, Ino-san. Ino's eyebrow twitched at the noise. I will take my leave now. Slurp. Ino screamed as she ran out of the house, releasing her fury on the suburbs surrounding the house. It would be a cold day in hell before she heard that sound again. Did you think it was wise to tell that girl about Naruto? Tsunami asked. Tazuna shrugged as he poured himself another drink. Even though he requested that we no longer keep in contact with him, I never agreed to it. That boy needs know that not everyone is against him. Tsunami sighed. It's a shame that he was treated like that. The world can be cruel sometimes. If the times were different, that boy could have been a fantastic leader. It's a real shame though. But Otou-san, did we really have to lie about Naruto-kun not being in this village? That girl is different, Tsunami. I believe she will be the one. Shizune laughed as he poured himself another cup. If anyone can change him, it'll be you. He would drink to that. It wasn't every day that he had lively visitors. He only hoped that he lived long enough to see them again. Naruto sighed as he walked through the thick jungles once more. Not only did he have no clue where the base was, he wasn't even sure where he was himself. Ever since he left Nami no Kuni, he was sure he was heading in the western direction, back to his original location, but unfortunately, he didn't recognize the surroundings. Damn it! Did I go in the wrong direction again? Naruto said, gritting his teeth in annoyance. He had a deadline to meet and the clock was ticking. Where the hell is Itachi when you need him? If you only paid attention when I told you before, you wouldn't be in this mess. Look at you. You look like a fresh genin who stepped out for the first time, Naruto-kun. Naruto's eyes widened. Just now, he could have sworn he heard Itachi's voice in the middle of nowhere. Maybe his ears were playing tricks on him. Are you a mirage? Naruto asked without turning around. If you want to know where the entrance of the base is, you better follow me. I won't tell you for a third time. Without another word, Itachi sprinted away, leaping from tree to tree. Naruto turned around quickly and chased after the Uchiha, quickly catching up to him. So where is the base? Itachi didn't answer his blonde-hair companion. He continued leaping and pointed straight ahead. The temporary base is located in Kawa no Kuni, just off the borders of Konoha. Are you guys stupid? Having a base that close to the enemy is just asking them to storm it. Itachi stopped and landed on a sturdy tree. That's where you're wrong. It is because of that reason that Pain-sama purposely chose it. What better way to elude your enemies than having a base right under their nose? It would be one of the last places they would expect to look. I never thought Pain was the gambling type. Pain-sama doesn't leave things up to fate. When a person has the power to change the world, fate is in your hands. He doesn't work against fate either. He works with it. With all the chit-chat going on, Naruto did not lose focus for a bit. He subconsciously minded his surroundings, keeping an exact lookout for any sudden attacks. He might be working temporarily under Akatsuki, but it doesn't mean that he was safe yet. In the inner pocket of his cloak, he held an item that was considered to be sent from the gods themselves. The heart of the waterfall, a necklace that could easily rival the one Tsunade had in value. While they alone are worth enough cash to buy 3 Hokage mountains, each one of them containing great power. The necklace that Tsunade currently holds in her possession contains the power from the Shadaime, her grandfather. It has the ability to suppress and control a Biju's power. It was also the rumor necklace to cause death for its wearer. Naruto scoffed at that rumor. When he still had it, there was no bad luck and misery in this lifetime that could rival the one that he had been experiencing his entire life. He would even dare fate to try and bring her worse. On the other hand, the heart of the waterfall contained enough power to grant a single individual the strength of several kage in return for the user's life. It was a double-edged weapon that was fatal for its user. There was something more to this necklace than the power. Naruto knew that for a fact. Pain wasn't exactly the type to go looking for power. He had enough power himself. Him and those eyes of his, the Rinnegan. There was something, probably another use for this necklace, one that could give Pain the edge to succeed in his plan. Whatever that was, what does Pain intend to do with this necklace? Naruto asked. He will tell you when he is ready. TCH. In other words, you don't know either. Naruto commented. He suspected that only a selective few from Pain's inner circle would know. The rest of his members were probably pawns in his little game. Naruto smirked under his cloak. He would play this little game of his. Just to see how far it goes. Just as Naruto walked into the base, he saw Pain sitting on top of his throne, a passive expression written across his face. I take it that you had a pleasant journey. Naruto rolled his eyes. It doesn't matter. I completed your mission. He reached into his pocket and produced a familiar necklace. He let it dangle in the air for a bit, proof that he had completed his mission successfully. Pain nodded his head slightly, acknowledging that Naruto completed the given task. Hand it over. Before Naruto could give Pain the necklace, he sensed an incoming projectile and leapt away. From the corner of his eyes, he saw a brownish bird flying after him. Knowing what this was, he quickly ran up the wall and kicked off. The bird couldn't follow Naruto's movements and collided with the wall, resulting in a small explosion. Art is a bang ya. Deidara, Naruto growled out. He glared at the Akatsuki member, his eyes slowly turning red. He started to leak out some killing intent, which alerted Pain to turn his attention to the duel. Deidara laughed. Is that how you greet a fellow Akatsuki member? Are you still sore about losing your arm? Naruto whispered from behind Deidara. He unleashed a fury of quick and hard punches towards Deidara's midriff. Deidara quickly turned, using his body's already moving momentum to dodge the Jinchuriki's blow. In his mind, he could see the blows clearly and responded accordingly. Dodging them from left to right, a smirk slowly formed on his face. Is that all you have? Nope. I just didn't want your blood on my cloak. Deidara released a small angry cry as he spun around and connected his knee to Naruto's gut, causing Naruto to disappear into smoke. Damn you Jinchuriki. Where the hell are you? He yelled. From the corner of the room, Naruto crouched against the ground, blending with the shadows. The information from that clone told him all that he needed to know. Ever since his last encounter with the Akatsuki member back during his previous Anbu days, things have changed significantly. Deidara was no longer just a long-range fighter. He somehow improved and adapted his body to become a more rounded fighter as a whole. The man's fighting style reminded him of a dancer. A very ugly one, but judging by the way he moves, it was as if he was anticipating and reacting just before his blows connected. Deciding that enough was enough, Naruto held up a single hand seal and concentrated. Several cage bushins appeared, and with a single plan in their mind, they knew what to do. Deidara growled as he looked around. Where are you hiding, you filthy rat? Here. It was the same procedure. Attacking using the shadows. Deidara already foresaw his opponent's attack pattern, studying and committing it to memory. He knew what Naruto liked, what he hated, how he attacked, and what jutsus he preferred to use. This was how far along he came just to get his revenge. Deidara ducked under a blow and went for an uppercut, but before he could land it, the Naruto he was fighting disappeared in a puff of smoke. Caught off guard, Deidara quickly jumped up, narrowly avoiding an attack from below. Where are you looking? Naruto whispered from above. Deidara quickly looked up and saw Naruto with his trademark Rasengan aimed for him. He intuitively reached into his back pocket and his hand went straight to work. In a mere matter of seconds, his own trademark jutsu was complete. Kibaku Nendo, C4 Karura. Rasengan. Before these two attacks connected, Pain appeared in midair, stopping them before they could connect their attacks. With a simple twist, he caught both of them on their wrist and threw them to the ground with ease. Deidara landed face first into the floor while Naruto landed on his feet, the Rasengan slowly disappearing. I will kill the both of you myself if this happens again. Do I make myself clear? Pain's voice rang out through the room. Even though it was stoic, the man's intentions were clear. Deidara grunted a response as he pulled himself up, dusting his cloak. Crystal Leader Sama. Crystal. Naruto muttered. He was impressed with the way Pain handled the situation. It was no easy feat to interrupt their duel, even if they weren't going all out. They were still going beyond normal expectations. To stop them just before their attacks connected said something about the man's skill. Pain-sama, I have gathered them as you requested. A hollow-like voice spoke up, interrupting Naruto from his thoughts. Everyone's accounted for. He turned to the source of the voice, dark figure slowly appearing from the wall. Naruto had to narrow his eyes to recognize the shadowy figure. Zetsu. He muttered under his breath. From behind him, he could see the infamous Akatsuki members slowly walking in one by one. Let's get this over with. We have a bounty to catch. A deep voice said. Maybe we can sacrifice the victim to Lord Jashin this time. An overly cheerful voice replied. Where did Deidara-senpai run off to, guys? A voice whined. Maybe he finally decided to become a holy sacrifice to Lord Jashin. No. The voice whined. The three members walked through the door whom Naruto recognized as Kakuzu and Haiden, but that last member, he didn't recognize. He looked weird compared to the others and frankly, kind of weak. Deidara-senpai. The member with the orange mask on shouted. You're alive. He eagerly ran up to Deidara and attempted to hug him but failed. He was greeted with a foot in his face. Never hug me, stupid idiot. Deidara shouted as he stomped on his apprentice. I told you a million times. I don't like hugs. Naruto watched the pair closely and shook his head in disgust. Pathetic. He whispered to himself. It's time to begin phase 2. Pain coolly stated. Every Akatsuki member turned their attention towards their leader and nodded their head. Silence reigned throughout the chamber as all eyes were focused on him. Let the games begin. Konoha. Hokage Chambers. I hope you realized what your actions caused me, Ino Yamanaka. Tsunade sternly stated. Ino deeply bowed her head, already having apologized for her actions. She just recently returned from her trip in Nani no Kumi, and despite all the annoying old men she met along the way, the country was actually a great vacation spot. The weather was just lovely, at a constant temperature where it wasn't too hot or too moist. Seeing all the different variety of flowers, there was also a plus as well. Again, I am deeply sorry for my actions, Tsunade-sama, but it would help if you explain to me what I actually did wrong. Shizune sighed. Tsunade-sama, did you not tell her the events when she walked in? I was getting to that before you interrupted. Tsunade growled. Like I was saying before. Due to your absence on the council meeting a couple of days ago, I have to now mark Jiraiya as a missing nin for the sole purpose of finding Naruto. The council, from my opinion, greatly fears Naruto. Is it because of the Kyuubi? Tsunade snorted. If it was only that simple. They think Naruto is the second coming of the Kyuubi. I bet somewhere in their tiny minds they think Naruto absorbed the Kyuubi, all the knowledge and power that the beast contains. Since none of those people knew Naruto's location, I'm forced to consider Jiraiya a traitor, and thanks to your old teammate Sasuke, the sunshine in Sakura's life, the ray of blossom, the love of her life. Ino's eyes twitched as she listened to her Hokage ramble on and on with Sasuke. What the hell did the Uchiha have to do with this anyway? I get the point, Hokage-sama. What did he do this time? That little bloody bastard came up with the most ridiculous idea of using Jiraiya as bait while they lure Naruto into their trap. Trap? Did they expect to kill Naruto? I mean, no offense to our ninjas, but I seen him single-handedly stopping Sasuke's Raikiri and Sakura's insane chakra-induced punch. If he can do that, what are their chances of succeeding? Tsunade sighed and shook her head. It's not that I care if that little bastard dies or not, but it's what Naruto does afterwards that worries me. You don't think? Yes, I think he will. He's not the type of person to let someone walk over him. He'll retaliate and he'll strike where it hurts the most. Tsunade nodded her head and Shizune got up, shutting the door before quickly performing a jutsu. Ino narrowed her eyes and looked around. What's going on, Hokage-sama? Tsunade smirked. We're going to get to Naruto first. Are you joking? Ino saw the devious smirk on her Hokage's face, and insane was just a polite word that she used. There were other words like stupid, ridiculous, and insane that came to her mind when she saw the look on Tsunade's face. Listen, Ino, I believe there's a reason why Naruto spared you that day. I think he saw a little bit of himself in you. You were in the same position as he was before, the act of betrayal by your friends. He saw that you were going to die at Sasuke's hand and he unintentionally saved you. He might not know it, but I believe that you might be able to awaken the true Naruto that lies dormant in that dark shell of his. Geez, you are the second person this week who told me this. What is going on with everyone connecting me to Naruto? We're nothing alike. Tsunade, at the point, had to let out a small chuckle. Listen to me, Ino. As a fellow woman, and Shizune can agree with me on this. If Naruto really wanted to kill you, he would have done so without a second thought. There is a reason, and even though we don't know what it is, I'm going to gamble everything I have on my first theory. Ino nervously laughed. She heard about Tsunade's gambling days and the nickname that she earned. The people that she gambled with gave her the title of the legendary It made her wonder how badly a person's luck must be if they received a title like that. No matter how she looked at it, betting with Tsunade usually ended in something bad. She glanced at Shizune, who was sadly shaking her head. Tsunade, on the other hand, was grinning like a fool. Well, Ino, what do you think? Think you'll be able to help me out with my plan? Ino gulped as she looked into Tsunade's eyes. If she said no, Tsunade would probably kill her with one punch, and if she didn't die from that, she would never hear the end of it. I guess so. Great. Now here's the plan. Tsunade said as she flung one arm around Ino and pulled her closer. This is what you're going to do. Akatsuki Base. Phase 1 has been completed thanks to Uzumaki Naruto, our newest member. The heart of the waterfall is now in our possession. Some of you might remember him from our past encounters, but regardless of what happened, he is one of us now. Do I make myself clear? Pain looked around, receiving several nods from around the room. For Phase 2, we will be splitting into teams. Our objectives are the original secret scrolls from each village. Which means I need teams to go to Suna, Iwa, Konoha, Kiri and Kumo. You are to go in and retrieve it. I don't care if you have to slaughter everyone in the village. Just get me the scrolls. Toby looked around the room before raising his hand. Excuse me, Leader Sama. Pain turned his head towards Toby and glared. What is it? So you want us to just walk right to those countries, ransack the village for the original secret scroll and then come back here alive? If you don't retrieve it, you're better off dying there because I'll kill anyone who fails this mission. Toby gulped. I understand. Good. Now here are the teams. Pain looked around the room, making some quick decisions in his head before pointing towards Deidara and Toby. You two will go to Iwa. I'm sure you guys will leave with a bang. Pain then pointed to the next team. Hidan and Kakuzu. You will travel to Kumo and retrieve it. I'm sure there are plenty of bounties there to satisfy your needs, Kakuzu. Just make sure that you get the scroll. Zetsu, you go into Kiri since you can infiltrate their defense easily. Itachi, you will go to Suna. Even with Gaara as the cage, I'm sure you can subdue him easily. Naruto held his breath, knowing that he was the only one left. He saw Pain slowly turning his head and looked at Naruto. Uzumaki, you will go to Konoha. I'm sure you personally know where the scrolls are kept. It's done. Naruto replied. What are you planning on doing with this Pain? Pain smirked slightly, a facial expression that rarely graces his face. That doesn't concern you, Uzumaki. Naruto growled and glared. To hell with your plans then. If you're not telling me, then I'm not doing your dirty work. Pain narrowed his eyes and returned an equally cold glare. Do you not trust me, Uzumaki? Naruto scoffed. You can't blame me. You did try to kill me in the past. How would I know that you wouldn't try it again? Deidara laughed. Fool. We gave up with hunting the Bijus because the Hachibi left this world. Without it, we couldn't continue with our original plan of purifying the world. Once you retrieve those original scrolls, I will tell you, but not a moment sooner. Pain said as he turned around, but he stopped halfway, remembering something. Zetsu, give him the robes. He then disappeared into the room, not caring what the rest of them did afterwards. Yes, my lord. The Akatsuki members stood there, watching their leader disappear back into a hidden room. One by one, they all left towards their destination until there was only Zetsu and Naruto left. Here, Zetsu dully said as he threw Naruto a set of dark robes. Naruto caught the garment easily and spread it apart, slowly feeling the soft fabric. It's very ironic. A few years ago, we were enemies and now we're working together. Who would have thought? Naruto pulled the string near his shoulders and his old cloak slid right off. He swung the new cloak around him and felt the soft fabric on his skin. Let's see what the future has in store for me. You want me to what? Ino yelled out. Are you insane? Shizune also yelled. The two stood there, staring at their Hokage with widened eyes. That goes against all protocol, Tsunade-sama. Trust me, this will work. Tsunade answered in her defense. If Ino travels with Jiraiya for a while, they're bound to run into Naruto and maybe she can talk to him on my behalf. What about the part about marking Jiraiya-sama as a missing nin? Oh, don't worry about it. The paperwork goes through me as usual. Tsunade snickered. I'll just lose the paper somehow and make up some other prosperous excuse of not getting it down. Besides, the bingo book can only be updated every 3 months. That leaves us with exactly a month to get this job done. Shizune and Ino stood there with their jaws slightly ajar. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Their own Hokage, throwing a monkey wrench into the plans of the council. Weren't they supposed to work together in bringing harmony to the village? But, what the hell are you going to do about me? Mark me as a missing nin as well. Ino protested. I never agreed to that. Never, Ino. I will be sending you out on a long-term escort mission for a month instead. No one will be much wiser. Tsunade-sama. This is highly unfair to Ino. Shouldn't you even get her consent first? Shizune said, bringing up her own thoughts about the situation. Fine, Shizune. I will ask her what she thinks. Tsunade said as she rolled her eyes. Well, Ino Yamanaka, do you accept the mission? Ino looked at Tsunade, who was smiling sweetly at her, but in her right hand held a medium-sized paperweight. A metallic one. Ino watched the paperweight collapse from under the pressure of Tsunade's death grip. The fist slowly closed, causing the paperweight to shrink in size until it became a fourth of its original size. I accept, Ino hastily replied, her eyes still watching the object in Tsunade's hand. Great. Now just relax while I get in contact with Jiraiya. Be ready to leave at a moment's notice. Tsunade happily answered as she threw her now crushed paperweight towards the wall. Ino watched as the metallic object, crushed and disfigured, leave a mark in the wall from the impact. She let out a small eep as it slowly dropped to the floor. It was a good thing that she agreed with the plan, or she would have been like that paperweight. Shizune glared at Tsunade, waiting for her mentor to continue. Tsunade saw the dirty look that Shizune was giving her but ignored it until Ino was completely hooked on her idea. Since it's settled, I want you to rest up and be prepared for anything. I have an odd feeling from the depths of my stomach that something is going to happen soon. Be on your guard, Ino. Hi. Ino bowed and left the room. Her only thought in the head was how she was supposed to play her role in this game of Tsunade's. She only sighed as she headed back to her apartment, wanting to take a much long overdue bath. Explain. Shizune said as she watched the door shut itself from the outside. Why did you send Ino with Jiraiya? You could have sent me. Tsunade shook her head. I know those old farts on the council are monitoring my every move, and I'm sure they're watching yours as well. I can't afford to send you away because it would alert them, and I don't want them catching on too fast. The reason I sent Ino is because of her history with Naruto. Maybe she can get through to him, and she is also a member on the council, so they don't suspect her yet. She can move under the radar, whereas you will have a much harder time. So we're going to let Ino rush into her own death? Never. If everything goes according to plan, she will be unharmed. But you're sending her with Jiraiya. Are you sure he won't do anything perverted with her? Shizune asked, a sense of insecurity in her voice. Sending a female to accompany Jiraiya was just like sending a lamb into a lion's den. Tsunade smirked. Ino's not known as the best torture and interrogation expert in Konoha for nothing, Shizune. If that pervert crosses the line, I'm sure she'll hurt him where it hurts the most. Shizune sighed. Okay, but just to be clear, I'm not 100% on board with your plan. It's alright. It's my burden alone to carry, and I don't need you to help me. I'll do just fine. Tsunade dropped back into her seat and closed her eyes. If I don't do this now, I'll never forgive myself. Shizune had a sad smile on her face as she watched Tsunade, who was like an older sister to her, slump in her chair. She was facing the world alone, and she didn't have any family members left but her. Jiraiya and Naruto left Konoha, and it was now up to her to see that Tsunade was going to keep herself out of trouble. Just as Shizune closed the door behind her, she missed the tears that was falling out of Tsunade's eyes. Tsunade knew herself that she was crying, and it was because of all the regret that she held in her heart. There was just so much a person can bear before collapsing. If she still had Naruto, she could endure any burden to make that kid Hokage. If she had Jiraiya, she might have to tolerate it with his occasional support, but they were family to her. They were the only ones that came close of being her only family, but now, they were gone. All she had left was Shizune, and she would be damned if Shizune was taken from her just like the others. Is it finished, Sasuke? Yes, Shinrei-sama. Sasuke replied, a smile on his face. This was the moment he was waiting for. The moment of revenge. After all these long months of training, of sacrifice, he would finally have his revenge on Naruto. Shinrei stood up and started to laugh. An evil maniacal laughter erupted from the man shrouded in complete darkness. Sasuke couldn't help but smirk at his antics. Soon, Konoha will be under my control. Those fools on the council are completely clueless to my plans. It is only a matter of time before I launch my takeover. Shinrei clapped his hands together and opened one hand, a bright orange flame appearing at the center of his palm. Do you know what this is, Sasuke? A flame. Sasuke answered, uninterested with where this conversation was going. No, you fool. This is what Sarutobi claims to be the will of fire, a trait that every Konoha citizen has within themselves. When I rise to power, I will crush it. Shinrei shouted and he closed his palm, making a fist. You are the fool, Shinrei. Sasuke thought as he watched his so-called master continue with his laughter. When I'm through with you, I'll end up controlling Konoha. A fool like you will never understand the true power that this village has to offer. Where is that fool Danzo hiding, Sasuke? Sasuke shrugged his shoulders. I have my Nei on the lookout as we speak. They have been given orders to eliminate and dispose of that fool. Good, Shinrei answered. And what of the demon? They brought my plan. I'm just waiting on the Nara fool to make a plan and for the bingo book to be updated. Once both parts have been complete, I will personally kill him. Even though Sasuke couldn't see Shinrei right now, he had a pretty good guess on what was going on in that man's head. Not once since he offered his services to this man, Shinrei, had he seen the man's identity. Get out of my sight. That was the man's reply. Short and straight to the point. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and watched the man fade back into the shadows. No matter how many times he had his bloodline activated, he couldn't learn the secret to that trick. No chakra residue, no chakra whatsoever. Sasuke deactivated the Sharingan and gritted his teeth. It's only a matter of time until I find you, Shinrei, Sasuke muttered under his breath as he too disappeared from the room. Somewhere just outside of Konoha, standing somewhere in the region of Konoha, stood a man of indescribable traits. He was not your average man and by far, he was one of a kind. Unique if he was compared to others. This man stood at a good 5 foot 10 inches with his golden locks swaying casually in the wind. While this man paled in comparison other muscular ninjas, he was by no means a pushover. Where he lacked in muscle, he made up for with his skills and knowledge. Push and train to limits where a normal human would have given up, he surpassed everyone's expectations. His cold cerulean eyes strike fear into the heart of many. His reputation has spread to all the great villages and even fresh genin have been taught to stay away from him for that he is the only ninja to be branded the rank of SS. He is Uzumaki Naruto, the man who is known as the Silent Storm. Naruto stood on top of a tree, concentrating chakra to the point where the tip of the tree met his foot. He stood there, his eyes closed and his new cloak swaying in the wind. He could almost hear everything, the birds, the leaves rustling, the rushing water in a brook and the faint cries of some animals in the forest. He knew he was close to Konoha and he knew what he had to do. A job. That was what this was. A job. He never expected to come back to Konoha. The only way he was coming back is if he was dead and his body being dragged by several hunter nins. Konoha, the place that forsaken him. Konoha, the place that caused him nothing but pain and suffering. Konoha, the place where he swore he would never return to. This was Konoha, the place where he would be passing judgment on. Let the games begin. 6 p.m., Iwagakure no Sato. Deidara had his eyes closed, his attention was centered towards one thing and one thing only, the success of this mission. He had to succeed, he must. Failure was not an option here. Deidara-senpai, you sure we can pull this job off? According to this statistical graph compiled by yours truly, our odds don't look that great. The sound of his partner's voice disrupted him from his daily mediation. He opened one eye and saw Toby sitting near the front of the ride, his back turned to him. He fought off the urge to accidentally swing his foot forward. Of course we'll succeed, who do you think you're talking to? This will be a piece of cake. Deidara laughed. Don't worry so much, Toby, it will go according to plan. Trust me on this. But what if we run into the Tsuchikage? I heard he's literally called the fortress. Toby shuddered at the thought. I mean, what does he need to look like to have people calling him the fortress? Look like one. A mental picture formulated itself inside the young Akatsuki member's head. Deidara rolled his eyes. Don't believe everything you hear, Toby. The Tsuchikage is just a pile of bones. Just leave him to me and focus on getting the scroll. Toby nodded his head. Leader Sama wanted the original secret scrolls from each village. What does he mean by that? The original scrolls. Deidara suppressed the urge to laugh at his partner's expense. It wasn't a surprise that no one knew about the original scrolls. It wasn't a secret, it was just forgotten over time, lost in the pages of ninja history. The missing nin grinned and pulled out some of his famous clay. This is what the original scrolls look like, Toby. Deidara worked his artistic skills and within moments, the clay took shape, forming a regular scroll. The reason why they're called the original scrolls is because when the great villages were first formed, the very first kinjutsus were written on this special kind of paper. As more and more jutsus were classified as forbidden, the Kages saw that there was no way this paper could hold any more information, so they opted to switch to a bigger, longer scroll which they now called the Forbidden Scrolls. Toby nodded his head furiously. I get it now, Deidara-senpai. All I have to do is search for the scroll and then we can run for the hills. Deidara chuckled. Idiot. His eyes wandered past Toby as they watched the sun setting slowly over the horizon. No matter what happens today, leave the Tsuchikage to me. Your main priority is to search for the scrolls. I am your backup, your distraction. You got it. Deidara-senpai, I understand. Toby replied. The feelings of his words were still left hanging in the air. You know, Deidara-senpai, I can't help but feel that you know the Tsuchikage personally or something. Now why would you say that? Was the seemingly amused response from the clay user. I don't know, Toby answered. I can just tell by the tone of your voice. The way you talk about him. TCH. Deidara scoffed. There is no relation between me and that old coot. He answered. We are enemies, nothing more. Toby jumped up from his spot and clapped his hands, as if he just figured out something. I know what happened. You slept with the Tsuchikage's daughter. That's probably the reason why he hates you. Deidara's eyebrow twitched and quickly connected his fist with the back of Toba's head. Idiot. Keep your irrational comments to yourself and let me regain my focus here. The artist took a seat once more, a scowl adorning his features, trying to ignore all that had been said by his partner. He spoke one last time before meditating once more. It's time we prepared ourselves. Toby groaned as he rubbed the sore spot on the back of his head. Yes, senpai. 15 minutes later. Are you sure this is the best way to enter? Toby whispered. Yes. No one is expecting it. Covered by the night sky, the giant clay bird slowly descended from the heavens. It flapped its large wings slowly and softly, not wanting to attract any attention to itself. The shadows of the night hid its figure perfectly, allowing it to descend into the city without any problems. The village was sheltered behind large mountains, gaining solitude and protection from outside forces. As soon as the bird was low enough, the Akatsuki duo jumped off and landed on the balcony of the Tsuchikage chambers quietly. Deidara waved his hand and dispelled the large bird, returning it back to clay once more. Which way do I go, Deidara-senpai? Toby asked. Up, down, left or right? Quiet, you idiot. Deidara hissed. He walked over to the glass doors before peeking inside. He waved hand, signaling for Toby to come over. Okay, you see the desk? Toby looked inside and saw the large desk. Yes, senpai. Is it hidden inside it? Deidara shook his head. The old man's cautious about leaving valuable things in the open. He keeps everything he considers important downstairs, just directly beneath his desk inside an iron safe. Deidara looked around the office some more, his eyes carefully searching the room for something that could prove troublesome to their mission. A large painting, books, a green carpet. The old man didn't even bother to redecorate. He mumbled to himself. When he felt that the room was secured enough, he reached over to the doorknob and picked the lock, granting them entrance inside. Let's go, Toby, Deidara said as he pulled the door open. Toby. He turned around and saw that his partner was nowhere in sight. He turned back around and saw Toby sitting on the desk, and even though his face was behind a mask, the blonde shinobi knew there was a smudge grin hidden out of his sight. What kept you, senpai? Deidara growled and marched over. Shut up and go do your job. I'll keep watch out here. I've been expecting you, Deidara. A bored voice interrupted Deidara's instructions. The Akatsuki pair quickly turned around, surprised that someone else was in the room besides them. Who's there? Toby asked. I saw you coming before you even created your transportation, Deidara. I saw you coming before you even got up this morning. Are you psychic? Toby asked. His voice was like a child, filled with curiosity and excitement. Can you tell me when you saw me coming? Toby. Deidara yelled out. Quit messing around. He is not psychic. Show yourself, old man. The voice chuckled. As you wish. A sudden increase of chakra alerted Deidara and Toby towards the painting that hung on the wall. The painting slowly disappeared, revealing a man who looked like he was in his 70s. He was dressed in professional cage robes with the hat leaning forward, covering his face. Deidara growled as he watched a man appear from the painting. I thought it was funny that you left your office so early. The Tsuchikage smiled. I heard the flapping sounds from your clay bird from a mile away, Deidara. You can't fool these old ears. Are you sure this is the Tsuchikage, Deidara-senpai? Toby asked. The young apprentice looked over the old man carefully. Don't let his appearance fool you, Toby. This man was once known as the impenetrable fortress of Iowa because of his unmovable defense. He was known for his battle techniques both on and off the field. He was the youngest person to ever hold the position of kage in this village. Hidekatsu Shibata, the fifth Tsuchikage of Iwagakure no Sato. Shibata clapped his hands happily. I'm glad you're still as sharp as ever, Deidara. Deidara narrowed his eyes and spat on the ground. Cut the crap, you old geezer. Get to it, Toby. I'll cover you from here on out. Toby nodded his head and began to sink into the ground. Don't die, senpai. I really don't feel like carrying your carcass back to base. Like I would lose to the likes of him. Deidara retorted. He watched as Toby disappeared into the ground, making his way towards the safe. His eyes fixated themselves on his opponent, who was smiling cheekily at him. No hug? Shibata asked. Is this how you greet me, Deidara? Oh, I'll hug you, good old man, when I kill you. Deidara sneered. Shibata sighed. After all these years, you still haven't learned any manners. And with one quick motion, the Tsuchikage pulled off his traditional garbs, revealing battle armor underneath his robes. I guess it's about time that this old man corrected his mistakes from the past and drilled them into your head once and for all. Deidara stood his ground, a sadistic expression gleaming on his face. Bring it, Gramps. 6:30 p.m. Kurigakure no Sato. This is the office of the Mizukage. It's pathetic. Does the man have no style? No personality? A dark voice speculated. His partner, on the other hand, remained quiet as he looked over the room. It seems like Mizukage Dono was in a rush today. Why do you say that? His desk seems to have been pieced back together rather sloppily after it got destroyed somehow, and the papers on it have all been shuffled around. So this guy is a slob. Let's just get this job over with. Zetsu slowly appeared from the face of the wall, his body slowly emerging from it. We should split up and see where the scrolls are. The light side stated. He moved over to the vast library behind the desk, for the office of the Mizukage was decorated with books and scrolls. This guy must be a nerd to have all these books. The darker side smirked and held up a one-handed seal. Musaishishoku no Jutsu. Zetsu suddenly began to tremble and shake all over. He crouched, and within moments, the body split apart. Finally, I'm free. The darker side of Zetsu laughed. Let's tear this place to pieces. The lighter side of Zetsu coughed as he regained his composure. No, we have a mission to do. You look downstairs while I look in this room. The sooner we can find it, the sooner we can leave this place. Thank Kami, you're the boring side. I wonder how life would have been if you didn't have me around. A lot better. The lighter side of Zetsu retorted. He could see the scowled look on his other half's face and enjoyed it. Get to work. Slave driver. Weakling. The darker side growled and started to sink into the floor. Don't do anything up here that I wouldn't do. He stated. The lighter side rolled his eyes and walked over to the desk. Point dully noted. When his other half finally disappeared, he began searching through the desk. TCH. Mizukage Dono is sure a messy man. He commented as he threw the useless papers onto the floor. Thanks for listening. In the next part. In the meantime, please leave a review. I would love to hear your feedback. Especially if it helps me improve the overall story.